Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Adam here with RetroRepairs, and today is mail day. I just took a drive down to the border and picked up a bunch of packages that I had shipped to me. In the interest of full disclosure, some of these are items for repair, and some of them are supposed to be fully functional that I've just purchased to help me sell things. I think we're just going to dive right into this. So, very first package I have here. Feels like it's a game cartridge. I'm just gonna see exactly what it is. I know what I ordered, just I don't know what is in which pack here. So, first thing I got is the equivalent to Kirby Superstar on the Super Famicom. The great thing about Super Famicom games is some of them, mainly like your platformers, types like that, pretty much non-RPG games, are mostly in English, so you can actually play these games without knowing a lot of Japanese at all. So in this case, game like this, Kirby Superstar, usually costs quite a bit to get the North American version. This was about $6. I purchased it mainly to help me sell some of the Super Famicoms that I have. So definitely a helpful purchase, but there's nothing to fix on this. It should be working as intended. So we'll move on to the next one. Alright, package number 2 here. This one's coming from the United States. So I'm actually not exactly sure what's going to be in here. So we'll crack it open and see what it is that I've ordered. Ah, yes. So I was really excited to get my copy of Disney Princess. It looks like it's a Cinderella version based on the Cinderella being the large one at the top. I think that's Cinderella, right? Yeah, glass slipper. Now, actually, it's a bunch of Sega Saturn games. So I found an eBay listing where they sold 22 different 22 Sega Saturn games, cost me about $20. They are a lot of repeats. So, for example, NHL All-Star Hockey. I'm not sure what this is. Madden 98. NHL 97. So, I mean, they're not expensive games by any stretch of the imagination, but they're supposed to work. And for 22 Sega Saturn games for $20, I think that's an absolute steal. I can try and sell a few of these. I got a couple buddies with Sega Saturns. I'll end up giving them probably a couple as well. So anytime I can find Saturn discs or Dreamcast discs for like $1 or $2 each, it's hard to not pull the trigger on that. So we'll probably test some of these to see what works and what doesn't. If I have enough of these that don't work, I might even make a video on a couple ways to try and resurface discs without actually using a resurfacer. Sometimes a lot of pawn shops or retro game stores will have a machine that you can ask them to resurface the disc for you. It usually costs about $5 or so, which you can hopefully revive some CD-based games. So excited about that purchase. This one, again, comes from Japan, so it'll be another Super Famicom cartridge, so we'll just cut right into it here. Just a matter of which one. I can't actually recall which games I bought. So here, we've got Super Mario Kart. So this guy, it's actually in really good shape on the front. The back of it, I don't know if you can see it in that wrap, but it is a little dirty and yellowed, but the front of it's exceptional condition. The label's in great shape. There's a small blemish at the bottom here, but otherwise it's in good shape. The pins could use a cleaning, so if we have to clean some of these, I'll go into that a little bit later. But Super Mario Kart for the Super Famicom and Kirby Superstar so far. Now we'll get into some of these boxes. So this guy here also comes from Japan. Game software and game controller. So I think we will cut right into this. So based on popular demand from last video, I didn't cut the box open with my feet. However, I am wearing some cleaner Star Wars socks instead of, it looks like Darth Vader here, instead of the dirty white ones that you guys roasted me about last time. So for those of you wondering, yes, they are clean socks. Alright, so here we have another bunch of Famicom stuff. So a couple controllers. They have the classic green, blue, red, and yellow Super Famicom button layout. So one of those, two of those, and 3 controllers. Now these are supposed to work again, so again, I'll test them, but I shouldn't have to do too much to make them work. And they're going to be used to flip some of those consoles that I've previously fixed here. Now we have Mario. I think this is the equivalent to Mario All-Star, I'm pretty sure. But I have to fire it up to really be truly sure. So Super Mario All-Star is going to be basically a remastered version of Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3 from the original Nintendo system. And then we have Rockman X. So Rockman is the Japanese version of Mega Man. They just have different names, but it's the same game. Both of these games, again, despite especially this one being written in Japanese at the top, are fully playable in English. They're your basic platformers. So again, these are great cheap cartridges to buy in order to either try and flip a Super Famicom system, or if you have one for yourself, something like this is great to have as very playable games if you don't know any Japanese. These ones aren't as in great shape, so you'll notice kind of the two-tone color on the back. It's definitely dirtier and more yellowed on the back side here, whereas the front side is pretty good. It's not perfect, but they're not too bad. The label's got a little bit of wear. Alright, I think we'll crack into this guy here. So, this big box, I have an idea about what this is, and I was pretty happy to find this buy online because it's got a lot of stuff that I need. Oh, it's a different thing. Okay, check this out. This one was actually quite a good buy. It cost me about $30, and what I wound up getting is some shiny bubble wrap. Never actually seen that. I guess it could be used for insulating food if you're shipping food, but whatever. So more shiny bubble wrap, some standard bubble wrap, and then amongst all the bubble wrap is 3 Sega Dreamcast systems. So this one looks to be in pretty good shape. I am concerned that there's a bit of water on the system itself, so hopefully it didn't get inside. There's nothing underneath the disc tray, but let's just hope that was just a little bit of condensation or something along the lines. So this one looks to be in okay shape. There's a couple scratches on it, but it's not super yellowed. We're going to give it a bit of a cleanup and see how this goes. Hopefully we can flip a couple of these. This one is... it's got some rattles, so definitely not in as good shape. Huge gouge on the bottom here. Like, if I didn't know any better, I would say this Sega Dreamcast lived its life in a automotive repair shop. It looks like one of those dirty old phones that you see in the repair shop. Inside of it actually kind of smells like one of those too. So inside of it's pretty gross. That's definitely going to need a clean. Around the laser's pretty dusty. So I'll show you better detail about all of these when we go to actually test them. But so that's number 2. And then we got number 3. Number 3 is even grosser. So this one's super dirty. I think this is actually stained the plastic itself. I don't think it's just dirt. Hopefully I can clean it up a bit, but on the inside's gross. I wonder if this is smoke damage even. Might have been involved in a fire or something along the lines of that, which has definitely shown some effects on this. Anyways, yeah, again, this one's kind of wet, so I don't know if the box got wet or what the deal is with this. Box doesn't seem like it's in bad shape, so I'm hoping it's just condensation, that this was stored somewhere at the post office out in the cold and just the outsides are condensating a bit. So we'll set these guys aside. And dive into this package right here. So again, this one's coming from the United States. Oh, I see what this is. And what these are some cheap third-party power adapters. So I bought up a bunch of these for if I need something quick to test Super Nintendos or NES systems, or even older Segas. These were 3-in-1, so they work with the original Sega Genesis, they work with the Super Nintendo, and they work with the NES. So they're handy to have. They cost me about $3 each, actually. I don't really recommend using these as a truly permanent AC adapter, as they don't really output enough voltage to be in spec with what some of the systems require. But as far as testing works, they work for me, and they're definitely useful to have. So I ordered 5 of these, and they were involved in this package. And then lastly, we got this box here, so we're going to cut into that. This is the one that I was happy to be able to find. I ended up winning an online or an eBay auction for this, which it's nothing huge, but it's a lot of stuff that is expensive to buy by itself. It's also untested, so I don't know whether or not it works properly. So we're going to have to test some of these. But to give you an idea of what it is that I've got here, for example, we have Sega Saturn Controller. When I first push the buttons, it seems okay. It looks like it's in good shape. I'm really hoping that these Saturn controllers work, as that's one of the big reasons I bought it. Saturn controllers aren't the easiest to come across. You don't see them very often due to the system really not being around that long. And it seems that they've only recently started making third-party kind of knockoff controllers from China. So to buy one of these online is probably about $20 or $30, which makes this bundle a pretty good value. Here it looks like I have an original Sega Genesis Gen 1 AV cable, which again are not too common to find out in the wild, but definitely valuable to have. Let's see what the packing slip says. No, just thank you for your purchase. Nothing on there. I got a 6-button Genesis controller, power cable for what appears to be maybe a Saturn or a Dreamcast, a power cable for an original Xbox with the built-in GFCI on it, another 6-button Sega Genesis controller, an RF adapter for Sega, so probably Master System or Sega Genesis 1, it looks like. This appears to be, I don't really know what this is for. Oh, Xbox, so original Xbox AV cable. And again, handy to have in case I stumble across a couple Xboxes. This is interesting. I didn't really realize this was included. A Sega Genesis multi-tap. So I can hook up 4 controllers to my Sega Genesis. Definitely something handy to have that you definitely don't see too often. PS2 controller looks to be in okay physical shape. The sticks aren't wobbly, they're not ripped or anything, so again, just useful things to kind of have in the collection for when it comes time to sell off some stuff. This is another Sega RF adapter. Sony PlayStation power adapter. So that probably goes with one of those power cords that I had there earlier. This, I'm really not sure what it's for. I don't know if you can make out that tip there. And it's got some sort of adapter anyways. So we'll see what else comes in this and if I can make any sense of that. So a Generation 2 Sega Genesis AV cable. Just again, something that's handy to have available. This appears to be a multi-component cable. So component cables on one end, and then 3 tips on the other. So it looks like it will support a Nintendo Wii, a Sony PlayStation. Oh, it's got labels on it, I think. Yeah, Nintendo Wii, Sony PlayStation, Xbox 360. So again, definitely something handy to have for testing purposes. Sony PlayStation AV cable. PlayStation AV cable. Sega Genesis 6-button controller. I like that these are actually OEM Genesis parts. They're not these kind of cheap knockoff controllers. They actually feel good. They've got some substance to them. Oh, this is an S-video cable. So S-video to S-video. I don't know which systems offhand have S-video out, but sure, why not? Sony PlayStation 2 controller. Again, looks to be in decent physical shape. Another Sega Saturn controller. Again, the buttons look to be okay. So that was, like I mentioned before, those Sega Saturn controllers are not easy to come by, and definitely one of the big reasons why I purchased this. This is a Xbox controller, original Xbox, I guess. It has the same tip as this, so this is some sort of Xbox adapter that I don't know what it's for, but it adapts to something. But this is the Mortal Kombat made by Midway Xbox controller, so yeah, why not? Original Sega Genesis 3-button. Another Sega Genesis 6-button turbo controller. It has the mode button up at the top here. Sega Genesis 6-button turbo controller with the mode button. Genesis 3-button controller. This is just a basic RCA cable, so for RF out. If your TV has an RF in, you can hook it straight up, or you can get an adapter which converts it into a coax end. Sega Saturn SuperPad 8. So a 6-button, basically a third-party Sega Saturn controller. And it looks like it has a switch on the back for turbo mode as well. So definitely nice to have a turbo controller for the Sega Saturn. Here we've got another Sega Genesis RF adapter, or Sega Master System. I think this is a Sega Saturn AV cable. I'd have to double check it, but based on that tip, I think that's a Saturn AV. Another Genesis RF out. A GameWorks. If this is what I think it is, let's just open this up. So it looks like it takes a PS2 controller connection on one side and allows you to plug into an Xbox, a Dreamcast, or a USB end. So you can use your PlayStation controller on any of those systems, Xbox, Dreamcast, or computer, I guess. So that's interesting. I didn't really know that these were a thing, but definitely kind of cool to have that. Here we have another S-video to S-video cable. And last bit is Sega Genesis composite cable. So other than that, we just got some packing peanuts. So I think what I'm going to do next is fire up these Dreamcast systems, and I want to see what I got for what I paid. So $30, I think it was, for 3 kind of gross looking Dreamcast. Let's Alright, so before I get into testing these, I just want to show you one by one these Dreamcasts that I picked up. So this guy here is the best looking out of the bunch. When I open it, it looks pretty clean on the inside. It's not yellowed yet. Might use a little bit of a cleaning. There's some scuffs on the top of it. The ports look like they're in good shape. A little dirty on the back in this corner. And the bottom side, again, they look to be in okay shape. The good thing about this, you see this code here, NTSC-U1. I believe the ones are the model of Dreamcast, which actually does not have copyright protection. So if you're backing up your existing Dreamcast games, you can play burnt copies off of these without having to install a mod chip or doing a swap trick or anything like that. So kind of a handy feature of these. I checked all of these and they're all NTSC U1s, so assuming that the lasers work, that means that they're definitely a lot more universal and easy to play. So this is the one I'm very interested in. Check this out. Look at how gross this looks. I don't know if I'm going to get much of this to come off or not, but I mean, something we're going to have to try and see what we got. Open it up and look at how dark it is on the inside. So like I suspected before, I wonder if this got was part of a fire or what. Doesn't really smell. Just gave it a bit of a whiff, but again, I'm pretty interested to see what we can get out of this. You can tell something definitely was sitting on top of it, as there's pretty distinct line where the coloring is. Turning it over, again, we got the same standard stuff. They all have the network adapter, so the modem on the back, and again, NTSC 1. So it's one of the early releases that does not have copy protection. And lastly, this one is the most beat up of them. You see there's some pretty solid scratches on the top of it. Some gouges, some marks on the front. Like I kind of said before, it smells like it lived in an old shop, so I'm really curious to know what the story behind this guy is. There's a solid rattle in there too, so definitely a beat up system. I'm hopeful that I can get one of these to work. I have good hopes on this. There are some common problems with Dreamcasts that are easy to fix, and hopefully that might be the case. I'm very curious what will come of these three here. So I'm gonna fix the camera up and we're gonna test these one by one. Alright, so we're going to test the first one here, the nice clean Dreamcast first. I want to see, firstly, does it power on, does it read a disc, and can you play it? Do the controller ports work? So we're going to try it with an original copy of Sonic Adventure. First, I want to make sure that it will read OEM Sega Dreamcast discs. I'm also going to try it with a burnt copy of a game as well, just to see what kind of issues there might be with it. So first thing I want to do when I test these, aside from obviously making sure you can see things on the screen, we want to check the VMU on the controller. When you turn it on, it should light up and say something on there. If it doesn't, that means that there's an issue with the signal coming out to the controller. So let's check it out. We'll push power, and it did beep. It lit up, but I'm not getting any video on the screen. I'm just going to try a different input here, and then we'll double check this. Okay, so I've changed inputs. I'll push power again. VMU turns on, but as you can see, I still get no video signal. If I try wiggle this, nothing. So I'm afraid this first console at first just isn't going to work. It may be able to open it up. It might be just a bad connection to the actual video out port. It could be a dirty port itself. I'm not sure. We're going to have to try and solve that in another video. So power this one off and try console number 2. Alright, so this is the second Dreamcast here. This is the one that's super dirty. So the inside is, it almost looks like it has smoke damage. The outside's covered in dirt. I'm not really optimistic about this, but we'll see what we got. as well, I'm going to test this without a game in it. I don't want it to damage my game. I just have that little faith in this. So push power. It is lighting up. I can hear the disc firing up, but I'm still not getting any video. What the hell's going on? Well, that helps. I had it on the wrong input after all. However, I got no controller action on this one. So I did manage to boot up onto the screen, but the controllers are not recognized. Now, that is actually not necessarily a terrible thing. There is a resistor in here that actually controls the controllers, and if it goes, you get no action off the controllers. I did a video on this earlier, actually, where I was able to fix another Dreamcast. So this one might actually be repairable. Unfortunately, I have to repair that before I can see if it will read a disc. So we'll move that over onto the project list, and we'll go on to Dreamcast number 3. Okay, Dreamcast number 3. This is the one that's all beat up. Huge gashes on the back, rattling components on the inside. I am going to try this with a disc in it, but I'm going to try it with my burnt copy of House of the Dead 2. Just in case it does something to my game here, I don't want to replace an actual original one. I can replace a backup. As well, when I was kind of just pushing buttons, it looks like this power button's stuck down, so I'm going to have to plug it in to see if it works. Alright, so we have power. We have video. And I didn't notice if the controller beeped or not. I wasn't really paying attention. So, let's see. I've got no action off the controller. So again, it might be a case of dead controller ports. As well, we have to fix this power button as I can't get it to come up. But video on the screen is definitely positive, so it means that the machine is firing up and it seems to be somewhat working. So we'll have to fix that controller port, and hopefully we can revive this guy. So again, we'll put that into the pile here. Alright, so now back to Dreamcast number 1. This is the clean looking one. As you might recall from a couple minutes ago, I'm kind of an idiot and didn't have the proper input set on my switch box up there. So I now do have it set up on the proper input, so we're going to give this a try, see what we got. As we remember, the controller did recognize the system, so hopefully this one might even just work. Let's power on. So the VMU flashed. And I get the classic sad panda. And I am able to set the date, select. Let's hit play. Please insert a game disc. So the disc is not spinning. So that could be a couple of things. It could be the laser's bad, it could be the disc motor is bad. It's hard to say exactly what could be the issue with that. But it looks like we have, anyways, 3 Dreamcast projects to work on. So that gives me a new mini-series to get started on pretty soon. So make sure to stay tuned for those. I'm going to actually try and tackle these Dreamcasts pretty quickly. So hopefully within the week or so, I should have a video up where I'm able to ideally repair 1, 2, or even 3 of these. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, that's all I've got for you today. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed what you see. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. Give me a comment below. Let me know what you think. And we will see you next time. Thanks a lot.